On behalf of CrossCheck Media and Biz Talk Today TV, welcome everyone to Buy, Hold, Sell. I am your trader, Todd Schoenberger, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host Tobin Smith out in sunny and hot Scottsdale, Arizona.
I'm wearing a sweater. I mean, it's like 70. I get cold.
Will you be going to the Phoenix Open, though?
I have a booth at the Phoenix Open because I volunteer there every year, you bonehead.
Look at you.
Yeah, but what I do is I check in the golfers. That's my job.
That's a great job. I tell you, a lot of people would love to have that job. Well, I tell you, one person that would love to be out there with you, and that's Rhys Williams. He's our featured guest today. He is a portfolio manager and a strategist over at Wayve Capital in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show, Rhys.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Good. Make sure your communications works this time, okay?
Yeah, for the audience, we were doing a Twitter Space conversation the other day. I have to talk about the tariffs and the reaction in the markets, and Rhys had some technical difficulties, but he's with us right now, live and in 4K, and that's all that matters. So, Rhys, I'm going to start with you today because the market shot higher. Traders were very optimistic, very bullish. We're putting this tariff talk to the side. Is this what we can expect for the rest of the week and maybe next week?
I think for the rest of this week, yes. I think we have been promised tariffs on Europe in 2-3 weeks, so I don't think we're going to stop having this tariff conversation. Obviously, it's a go-to subject for Donald Trump, so I think it will keep coming back. But I do think that really until the NVIDIA print, we have fairly good, smooth sailing. Google's just told everybody that instead of spending $50 billion, they're going to spend $75 billion. That on top of Meta doubling CapEx for 2025 tells you that the AI infrastructure trade is A-OK for the next 3 to 6 months at the minimum.
Yeah. Well, I think what's Todd about it, you get a little weary with Donald Trump in terms of just every day is a new day, a new surprise. And I found over the years you just have to sort of find some mechanism to stay calm and collected, et cetera, when, let's say he suggests that we're going to buy Gaza Strip and build a Riviera there. But then secondarily, you have to make some assumptions in this business, right? So when Trump came out with the, 30% tariffs against China, 25% against Mexico and Canada, and you start thinking, okay, well, they're not going to take that sitting down. And then the next day, he says, no, did I say 25%? I'm sorry, I meant 10% at China. And did I say you're going to start throwing? No, we're going to move them another 30 days. It's just his natural inclination to make people as uneasy and as he possibly can. I think that's part of his strategy, right? His negotiating style. Because how can you make a decision really on if, let's say, you wanted to buy a Canadian lumber stock, when 45% of this lumber we get in now is from Canada, and oh, by the way, we're trying to build these homes. Come on, man. So we just got to get used to this shit. I mean, that's the end of the day.
But that does lead to a great question, though. So you have this delay for Canada and Mexico. Everyone knows 30 days. We'll see what happens then. China, we're looking at a 10% tariff, but it's still not enough to move the needle. If anything, traders just shrugged it off and didn't worry about it. But Rhys, going forward, though, as we continue with the tariff talk, and you were talking about in Europe, I mean, will this be a challenge for Wall Street traders?
I absolutely think it'll be a challenge because, he's going to keep upping the ante. He obviously likes it. It puts him in the limelight. And also, by all I have been told by people that have talked to him, he really believes in tariffs. Yeah. It's the one consistent thing. So that's the one thing that maybe people can talk him out of it once in a while, but he keeps coming back to it because this, in his deep down, he believes in it. He's believed in it since, I guess, the 1980s when he thought that Japan should be tariffed. So it's been consistent, and he's been told a million times that consumers pay for tariffs, not these foreign companies, but he doesn't believe it.
Yeah, I don't think you've interviewed President Trump before. You were one-on-one with him with a great interview. Did he give any indication on his love for tariffs back then?
Well, this is like 2012. This was This was more, he was really more excited about, trying to prove that the president was not born in the United States.
I remember that.
I'm having a flashback, and it's not a good one. I'm trying to keep my face still and not laugh in his face. Oh, by the way, and he still doesn't shake hands. You got to get a whole warning when you meet Donald Trump of what you can't say and what you can't do. And at that time, he was a non-handshaker, and I'm told that has not changed either. So, but to his credit, I lived in Washington, D.C. for 30 years. Rhys, I don't know how long you were down there, but I've always found that I met some wonderful people, very bright people, et cetera, that could be making more money in the private sector, but were doing what they love to do and thought they were, aiding society, et cetera. And then you meet the next person who couldn't get a job at McDonald's, but he or she was like the assistant secretary of something. Yeah. And the bureaucracy just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling, and it now becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I respect him for saying, "No, wait a minute." Now, of course, he's doing it with not on a flamethrower, but a tank and a ballistic missile. But no one on the liberal side was going to stop any of this. So, right? So I give respect that it's just the shoot first and then figure it out later thing that gets tiring. Because, for instance, like there are these things called federal judges, and we just found out today that you can't just close down the $45 billion USA office by just saying, "All right, close that thing." Okay. Oh, excuse me, that's Arnold. I got confused. It develops churn, and then what I think people are doing, Rhys, maybe you agree or disagree, but you manage money, you make decisions, you make strategy decisions. You just pull back and you try to listen to hear what he's saying, what he means, not what he's saying. And it's the art of understanding El Trumpito, because the old thing, take him seriously, not literally. In these cases, they were literally. He was saying, "We're going to do a 30% tariff on Canada. Are you kidding me?" And that would affect prices. Oh, by the way, you got elected because A, you said you were going to stop the illegal Hispanics coming in, and then B, that egg prices are going to come down. Well, I got news for you. Eggs are 30% higher today than they were on the election day. Because guess what? There's this thing called avian flu, and it costs a lot of money and time. So he's a unique person in that he can confuse you at the same time and change his position, every 12 hours. Yeah. For guys like Rhys and me, we sort of got to make decisions based on a little bit more than 12 hours. I don't know how about you feel, Rhys.
Yeah. He's going to make it difficult. He's going to, there's going to be a lot of Maalox moments, and I just think that's the reality. But it'll be also the opportunity. Yeah. And in general, I like your idea of sort of buying the panic and selling the euphoria. And probably 9 times out of 10, that makes money. At some point, though, he's actually going to have a tariff that sticks, or else nobody will ever believe him, right? So, that's the danger is, one of these days he will actually do something a little crazy from an economic point of view.
Yeah, and I've never negotiated with him or his organization, but clearly there's a playbook here. It's a one-page playbook. Yeah. And so he leads with the horror show, and that gets somebody to answer him. And I understand that. I mean, if you're just saying, "Oh, it's going to be 5%," okay, 30%, really? So that gets the reaction, and now they get the endorphins and the anger going. Whoever is negotiation. So now they're like trying to do a back pedal and walk around, and I get that. I mean, that's his style. It's just strange to be the president of the United States and change your threat within let's say 12 hours or 5 hours, or yesterday 2 hours of what you're trying to accomplish. Because at some point in time, people say, "All right, he's just full of shit." By the way, he said bullshit on live television on Friday. I couldn't do that.
You just did as well. So what
but I'm not the president of the United States. We're on streaming television. You can do anything on streaming.
There you go.
You want.
You can do
Rhys.
whatever you want. That's right. So Rhys, because Toby brought up about the shutting down the spending that we've been hearing a lot about in the last 24 hours with this USAID, and you see a lot of these costs, I mean, millions of dollars, tens of millions, are just for these certain projects around the world that are happening, and now all of that is coming back to the U.S. What do you think, though, with that money? I mean, now the federal government's going to have a boatload of cash. They're obviously want to spend it here domestically, or they're going to buy the Gaza Strip, but that's another story. But with that, how do you see that playing out for the GDP, for the U.S. economy, maybe in the next 12 months?
Well, I think if you really look at the overall amount of money that, I mean, USAID kind of is a pimple in the ocean,
Yeah.
Compared to what the federal government spends and what the federal deficit is. So, I don't think, and in some ways that's the problem with the current strategy, because you've taken Social Security, taken Medicare, obviously you got to pay interest expense, all the transfer payment programs. There's I think we're talking about 25-30% of the budget that's left even discuss. Probably you keep some defense given current environment. So maybe we're down to like 15. So it's tough. I mean, Elon has a hard task because you've taken off so much that you can't touch. So actually, I don't think it'll dramatically change GDP in the United States if all the USAID money comes back here. And in fact, some of this USAID, just like some of the Ukraine money, is actually being spent on American companies here anyway, right? So not all that money is going to Ukraine. A lot of the money that it's going to Ukraine is being spent with American defense companies.
Well, Rhys, what do you think about China only being 10%? That seemed like a interesting, and also in China then coming back. I mean, I want you to keep this tape. I'm giving Trump a compliment here. China came back with nothing. Their response was 1% on paper clips and wontons. So.
And they're investigating Google for whatever monopoly practice in China where they're banned, right? So
you can't access Google there.
So that was almost as crazy as Canada fentanyl, right?
Yeah, right. We have 48 pounds of fentanyl that have been discovered in the last 12 months. I've had more than 48 pounds of fentanyl in my house, so I don't know.
Yeah. It's all there. I see it in the back there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot better business than money management.
Yeah. It's there's that term, see the forest through the trees, right? I don't know how to use the metaphor of Trump. I really don't, except that you can't react at the first one, and you have to assume that's the lead. And then there's the follow-up, and then there's, a negotiation style. I get it. But for the GDP of the United States, it's much more, the biggest impact by far is if we lose 7 million laborers in the United States that do 100% of the labor, of which there's no Americans to replace them with. Now you got problems. I mean, now you have GDP contraction.
Right.
Home building, office building, these are big parts of the economy. All the manufacturing, as I say, if you ever want to become a vegetarian, go into a meat packing plant. And first off, you're not going to see any people who look like us, or on a construction site, or whatever, manufacturing, tire manufacturing. I've been in industrial plants for years. Only in Ohio and somewhat in Michigan do you see someone who looks like us working on the line. So that's where, if that were to happen again, but I think somebody's in his ear finally that he trusts and says, "Sir, you can't take 7 million people doing construction work, etc. Because remember, you're trying to stimulate the economy and you're trying to give people jobs. Oh, and by the way, if we get rid of them, if we were to hire somebody to replace them, we'd have to pay them 30 or 50% more. You get
100%. If you could even find them.
If you could find them.
Who's gonna? I was in Washington last night, and one person, she's works for the citrus industry, and there are no Americans that will work in the Florida citrus industry in the summer. They just won't. You won't find them.
Yeah.
So
I grew up in California. We had a very organized system where you would be a Hispanic, usually from Mexico, other parts of Central America, and they got a temporary visa they got during harvest time, and they got paid very well. They were bussed in, they were fluent and bussed in. They had places to stay, et cetera, et cetera. It was usually a 60 to 90-day harvest period because you were going from different types of products, fruits, et cetera. And then they would, be escorted back home, and they'd have cash money, U.S. dollars in their pocket. They were living like gods down in Guadalajara, Mexico, and it became a lifestyle. And then, after a while, when they've been doing it for years and years and years, then they would apply for citizenship because they'd shown themselves to be qualified labor and trustworthy people. And I grew up in San Gabriel, California, which was 75% Hispanic in 1925. And then they matriculated, and it became a very successful area. There's a way to do it. I just don't understand why we're not doing it the way it's proven it works.
Yeah, I don't know why you don't greatly expand that sort of temporary help. That's the only answer. So
yeah, it makes
I mean, you can implant a chip, for crying out loud, an RFID chip on them. Have a satellite. They're not going to run away.
Right.
So I mean, every once in a while, someone would run away there, but usually it's because they stole something.
By the way, where are they going to find anybody to all those foundries next to your house in Arizona? Right. I mean, you need 10, 20, 30,000 people at a time, 3 shifts.
Yeah, that makes sense. Listen, guys, we're going to leave it there on this block, because coming up in the next block, we're going to start quizzing Rhys about earnings. We're currently in the middle of earnings period. Yesterday, we heard from Google's parent Alphabet. Didn't do well. AMD didn't do well, but Walt Disney knocked it out of the park, and you got Amazon coming out tomorrow. But we're going to get into all of that and more, because today with us is Rhys Williams. He is our featured guest. He's also the portfolio manager and chief strategist at Wayve Capital outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But keep it there.
Do this. You just made capital.
There you go. And we'll be right back after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Buy, Hold, Sell. Well, with us today, we have Rhys Williams. He is the chief strategist and portfolio manager at Wayve Capital. And Toby and I are just delighted as all else, because not to mention the fact, Rhys is a Duke guy, a Duke basketball fan. Rhys, are you going to the Final Four this year?
This year looks good. I'll be honest. Usually Duke is overrated, and this year I think we're the real deal.
There you go. They are good. Cooper Flag is the real deal.
You could be a UCLA fan, okay?
We had Scott Ladner on.
They were great
week.
in the 1970s. When you were playing Bill Walton, they were amazing.
When I went there, it was, we were the basketball center of the universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Last week we had Scott Ladner on. He's a big UNC guy, so he's having some pain these days. But
that was a tough game. That was a tough game.
There you go. Absolutely.
I heard Jordan got rid of the Carolina team, and Air Jordan's going to market with Duke now. Which I read that someplace. I don't know if that's fake news or
it got to be fake news, but I love it. But I can't imagine him switching sides. But who knows? So listen, another area that we've seen in the economy and the stock market that has been doing just as great as Duke University basketball is the earnings period right now. Are there any surprises that you've seen? Because yesterday, from the technology side, we saw Google's parent Alphabet did disappoint. AMD disappointed as well. We have Amazon coming out tomorrow. But is anything out there that's really moving the needle for you and your clients?
Well, certainly, I think the two big takeaways, especially given what happened last week, where the whole AI infrastructure theme was put into question, which has, by the way, been the #1 theme for the last year, right? I mean, you look at what the semiconductor and the stocks that are doing well, it's only the whole data center play. The PCs are not selling, cell phones, nobody's upgrading. I mean, all the traditional things, DRAM, memory chips for regular memories, not that interesting. So you think about the economy, it's all about this new emerging AI infrastructure boom. And then that got obliterated because of DeepSeek, and they did it all for $6 million, which was, of course, probably horse manure, but
Horse shit.
people you know, went with it, and so that's given somewhat of an opportunity. And there's two things we learned. We learned Facebook's, by the way, they pretty smart guys at Facebook. They decided they're doubling CapEx in 2025, and Google, who has every incentive not to say we're going to spend less, right? I mean, nobody really wants to hear you're spending more. But if you could get the same output for less, everybody would go, you know, Hosanna, hallelujah. So they announced they went from 50 to 75 billion. So today you finally started to get a move back in some of these AI infrastructure plays and semis and the companies like Vertiv and I think that theme is going to keep going now, and we're really just getting started. So I do think last week the bloodbath that happened is an opportunity, you know, for the next 3 months or so.
Yeah, I mean, Rhys, what I found so interesting is that, you know, this was a shoot first and aim later type event, and obviously, you know, when the algorithmic trading was something like 89% on Monday, that you know the selling was
that's every day.
I mean that's every day. 82% I believe is the average, right? So
yeah.
So the mechanics of the market melted, you know, created this free fall, and then short selling, and then panic selling, right?
Right.
And all I know, I've been doing this for a few years. I've never lost money buying into a panic. In other words, a just irrational panic. And you know, I mean, there was some rational panics, by the way, like the, you know, pandemic. But the idea that this has now become a global, you know, war, for lack of a better word, about shooting of bullets, of getting market share in AI and not being left behind. Now, if Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Larry Ellison, yada, 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 have all decided that they have to, you know, build their armament to be able to stay in business, for lack of a better word, I'm not going to argue with them. They know a lot more about this than I do, and I know a lot about it. So, like, you know, we were by now, NVIDIA was sort of a different thing because nobody really knew DeepSeek, what the hell was going on, you know, with it. But everybody who knew AI, I go onto a website called The Information. And if you haven't gone there, you know, they're the best tech guys. They're all actual tech people, not reporters, etc. Mm-hmm. And all they were saying is, oh, come on, this is crazy, blah, blah, blah. They had 25 reasons why, you know, this was crazy. So we got in there. But this spend is not going away. The ROI question is always, you know, going to be the doppelganger out there somewhere. But I'll tell you, we own Meta. We've owned Meta for, I don't know what's up, 13 days in a row, Rhys, or something. I believe, Todd, that it's the companies that have their own proprietary data that they're able to then use AI to sharpen their ad selection or their, you know, other outcomes. That's a, you know, that's a self-fulfilling product cycle. That's a you know, a feedback loop, a positive feedback loop. The more data they get, the better their accuracy is. If they're using AI to do that, then they get a much better outcome. And you can see it on Facebook, just in terms of, I'm in this golf tournament like 3 weeks, and I've been hitting golf things on Facebook. Oh my God! Now every ad I get is you know, how to reduce your hook, or how to use slice, or whatever. It didn't happen that way before. I mean, now it's like real time that they can you know, focus it on Reddit. I mean, Reddit's the stock we own. Reddit has more information, my God, for the last 25 years than any other repository in the world. And for them to be able to monetize that, now they actually are starting to monetize it. So I'm a fan of those guys, and I'm sort of a fan of ServiceNow. They sort of disappointed, but you know, there's a theory, Rhys, I'm curious, of saying that sort of the next level here is in the software, the software that applies to AI. Are you on that train?
I believe that to be the case. I think this will be the year that becomes apparent. Don't forget, the LLMs really just started 2 years ago, and they really didn't get good until now, right? So you had to have that infrastructure started building, and now you're having some Gen AI. And the great thing about the software side is you can replace a lot of people. You know, I mean, it is really going to be apparent, you know, what you can do. You know, we have a couple of private companies. One is in the apartment management software business, and they have a complete Gen AI product where they can say, you can ask the apartment software, when does garbage get picked up, and where do I send the electric bill, and what plumbers do you recommend, and all these things that you would need to ask a person if you're a new renter in a new building. And in B buildings, which is where most of America lives, in a B building, there is nobody in the office. So you can have a lot less people in the central office with better software, and this is exactly what's going to be happening throughout.
Right. Well, I mean, look at Facebook's laying off 2,000 people, almost purely because of redundancy with what now their large language models can do for them. And then the other issue is open source versus closed source. And now that open source is winning the game for a variety of reasons, man, as I was telling Rhys before we got started, in the old days, like if I was the assistant research assistant, and this is like when Excel spreadsheets were, actually we didn't have spreadsheets. What am I talking? And you'd have to put together an earnings estimate. Oh my God, it could take a week, literally, to just figure out IBM. And that's one person. We have a portfolio of 600 stocks, Toby, but I need IBM tomorrow. Well, that's not going to happen. Okay. Yeah. Now I go, whatever. Give me the 5 best estimates on IBM earnings per share. Thank you very much. That took 3 seconds.
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff. There's no doubt about it. I am curious though, on the AI side, can you actually talk to AI and get any information on Bitcoin?
I assume you can. I haven't actually tried, so I don't want to say.
Have you tried it, Toby?
Oh my Lord. There's more about algorithmic trading on Bitcoin. That's the one that I see, because trades 24/7, 365. It follows a sort of normal pattern, particularly when you go through these halvings. So all of a sudden there's less coins available. So if Donald Trump decides to set up a sovereign wealth reserve and 40% of it's going to be in Bitcoin, so all the algos all do it at the same time, and that's all just simple AI, but it's not artificial intelligence. It's simply a program. It's an algorithmic program that says if then that. But it's huge, and now there's now like companies, Todd, that will give somebody $50,000 to trade using their futures systems, and you trade for your own account, and you give them 25% of your winnings, whatever. That's all algorithmic. So
that's impressive.
It's gonna be I'm in the newsletter research publishing business for half of my living, and it's going to get to the point where we're going to send a file, and it's going to have our picks and why we like it and so on and so forth. But then you're going to be able to ask questions. The reader can ask questions again, and they'll get it from our LLM.
Yeah,
it'll show the inference. It'll show because the expensive thing in AI, the reason why NVIDIA is not going out of business, is the stuff that just moved the dice around. Okay, you can do that with a low-end GPU, but the inference to do if then that and this and that requires an Intel. Excuse me, it does not require an Intel. It requires an NVIDIA H100 GPU at the least. And what everyone has discovered, Todd, is that the value is in the inferential deduction in real time that can give me actionable answers and show me the data why that's an actionable. That has tremendous value.
That's interesting. Well, I wanted to bring up Bitcoin because obviously it's been on a run. I mean, ever since the election, it shot higher, and then the inauguration, it has been trending higher. It has been just hovering or just below $100,000. But with that said, Rhys, with Bitcoin, not to put you on the spot to talk about Bitcoin, but is there some type of maybe a different play on how to take advantage of the cryptos?
Yeah, actually, I think an interesting area right now, especially given what happened with everything to do with AI infrastructure, where everybody connected to the AI data center theme got destroyed in the last week of January. So some of these Bitcoin miners, and the Bitcoin miners are now becoming more AI data centers, because guess what Bitcoin mining did? They tried to find cheap power someplace where there's a lot of land, and where they could mine Bitcoin cheaper than everybody else, because that was the name of the game. Well, guess what? The highest and best use of this site is probably not Bitcoin mining, it's AI data center. And that's where you're seeing a transformation with some of these companies. And that's great, because Bitcoin mining is very bulimic. They're binging and they're purging, and they're binging and they're purging. And that makes it very, very difficult to make money on a consistent basis. So that's
you get a word point for bulimic. I've never heard that used in a financial interview ever. I would remember that.
It may not be politically correct, so I got to keep it in the. I apologize to your viewers if I offended anybody. But
no,
not at all.
None of our viewers are afraid of bulimia.
But that's been the nature of that business, and where the AI data center, where you can make a long-term contract with a Microsoft or an Apple or a Facebook. I mean, that's money good. So I think there's a bit of a transformation going on. And so some of those stocks that pulled back 20-30% in 1 week may be opportunities.
Yeah, there's a company called TerraWolf that is in this process. They're out of 40% of all data centers are in Virginia, and 40% of those people are in Loudoun County. So
Go figure.
Yeah, some of these guys are starting to say, okay, and the guys who are miners, there's a company called Mara Holdings, MARA is the ticker symbol. They've committed to going just directly to data center. And Rhys is exactly right. It's a higher return on investment. It's particularly a higher investment if you're like, there's a power company, IREN, that was using nuclear power to do mining. And now there's admitted, I'm not going to do that. So you're going to see a lot of that conversion, because it's just dollars and cents. And these are public companies, and they're a fiduciary. They can't, the stockholders expect them to get the highest return on capital invested, and it's not going into Bitcoin. And of course, next year, they have the final halving of, they cut every, what is it, Rhys, I think 2 years?
Couple years.
Yeah. So when you mine, you get half the amount of Bitcoin you got 2 years before. Right. And when they get to this final halving, then all the Bitcoin that was ever going to be made, 19.8 million, whatever it is done. So if I was in that business, I'd be converting to a data center.
I don't think it's 2 years. I think there's more halvings than that. I think it's like 20 to 25 years of. I mean, we can argue what the return is, but there will be more Bitcoin mining technically possible in farther in the future than 2 years.
I agree. I'm just saying at the highest level of payment right now.
It'll get worse and worse. Worse. And worse.
Yeah.
But this is a much better business. But their core competency isn't Bitcoin mining. Their core competency is to find a place with cheap power and get long-term power contracts, and that's going to be the name of the game.
No question. And they're a data center. It's just their machines are mining Bitcoin or mining Ethereum or mining other crypto, and they only get paid when they can sell some of this stuff. Whereas on the data center, you sign a contract and you get paid by the people who are renting your data center. You don't have to worry about the price of Ethereum.
Right. And AI data, just to give you the round numbers, AI infrastructure plays right now probably trade about 25 times EBITDA in general, even after the pullback. And these Bitcoin miners probably trade about 10, something like that. So it's a big significant discount. So there is a play there of multiple expansion.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's great advice there. Well, guys, we're going to leave it right there on the show, because we said it all. We always do when Rhys is on the show. There's no doubt about it. And you definitely want to go to wavecapital.com to learn all about Rhys and his firm, and go to transformityresearch.com to get Toby's commentary. Yeah.
Tell them to sign up for our WaveWire. We're sort of doing some wild stuff. That's our free e-letter. So
sign up for the WaveWire. I love that. There's a lot there.
I got the wave in too.
There.
Yeah, that's good. I'll have to sue you for pain and suffering.
No, I've had the WaveWire for 30 years. So
Then I guess you can sue me then.
Yeah.
In this
Ocean waves,
crazy
so
litigious
everybody's
world
fine.
we live in.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I got to tell you, this was great. And so on behalf of Rhys Williams and Tobin Smith, I am Todd Schoenberger. Thank you once again for joining us on Bio.
I just got to show you, and I've written books about change wave. Okay.
Well,
catch you next time.
We got to send you a royalty. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'll take it in whiskey.
Love it. That's great. That was a great show.
Buy, hold, sell, brought to you by CrossCheck Management.